Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Rabbi shrah sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, dear brothers and sisters? Alhamdulillah. First of all, it is a pleasure to come here to Australia. I have been to Australia several times, many different parts of Australia. But all these trips happened before I reverted to Islam. And all these trips were actually more than 20 over years ago. And this is my first time coming to Australia as a Muslim, especially for da'wah purposes. And it gives me a pleasure that is not comparable compared to the earlier trips, Alhamdulillah. And this program have been very meaningful for me, especially meeting with the brothers over here who have been taking care maybe too good of me, Alhamdulillah. And brothers and sisters, just a little bit of introduction about myself. First of all, I am not an ustaz, and confirm I'm not an ustazah. I'm not a scholar, I'm not an alim or maulana or whatever. I am just an ordinary lay Muslim. So whatever I'm going to present to you this evening is as a lay Muslim, which we face in our everyday life, people from other religion, other faith, and sometimes Muslims themselves who have got a lot of questions to ask about Islam. And Alhamdulillah, I represent an organization from Malaysia by the name of Global Unity Network. What we do in our organization, among other things, we focus on training the Muslims to do da'wah to non-Muslims, and at the same time we also engage in interfaith programs, relationship with people from other religions. Alhamdulillah. That's just a very short introduction. Now the topic that is given is women's rights in Islam. First of all, people may question, if it is a women's rights, why is a brother speaking? Shouldn't it be a sister addressing about women's rights? Let's make it positively. If a sister says about women's rights, some people will say, of course you are a woman, you will demand this and that. So on the positive note, if a brother speaks about women's rights, okay, so no one can say this brother is biased towards a woman. You agree with me? Agree? Okay, Alhamdulillah. And the second thing, when we speak about women's rights in Islam, why this topic? Because Islam, would you agree if I say Islam is the most misunderstood religion in the world? Not only misunderstood by non-Muslims, but sometimes also misunderstood by some confused Muslims themselves. And among the questions that people always have in their mind against Islam would be women-related issues. Before September 11, most of the questions are based on women issues. But after September 11, there is a shift. When people question about Islam, they think about Islam as a terrorist religion, extremist, fundamentalist, etc., etc. So we will focus on women issues today. Now, to appreciate about women's rights in Islam, let me bring you to the condition of the people more than 1,400 years ago. Are we good? Okay, more than 1,400 years ago, because the Quran was revealed about 1,400 years ago. So before the revelation of the Quran, how were women treated around the world? We had at that time the Roman civilization, the Greek civilization, the Egyptian civilization, Hindu civilization, Chinese civilization. I mean, so many different civilizations, including pre-Islamic Arab. We call them Arab Jahiliyyah. True? Yeah. Okay. So how were women treated then? Women usually at that time did not actually have their own rights. At that time, they even would consider women not to have soul. You heard about Plato? You know Plato, right? He claims that women are without soul. It is only men who are created directly from God, and women have no soul. What about Aristotle, for example? Aristotle says, just like tame animals are ruled by men, that's how you kept them alive, so women should be ruled by men. Men are always higher than women. That was the condition of women at the time. Women were not allowed to own properties. In many of these areas, if they have daughters, they would usually keep only one daughter to do the housework, and the other daughters, they will usually leave it into the streets or whatever, and most of them will be taken up by other people and brought into brothel. I mean, if I go on and on, you get the imagination. Women have no right for education, no right to work, nothing. And even in Arab Jahiliyyah, for example, the condition of the women at that time, we know that men can own women. In fact, they inherit women. If a man has a woman and he dies, these women will be inherited by his sons. Even we know that women at the time also circumambulate around Kaaba without wearing any dress. Are we good? Women are just like, I'm sorry to say this, but they were treated sometimes just like animals. Now, for us to appreciate what the Quran brought, what Prophet Muhammad brought to us, we need to know what was the condition at the time. Now, what does the Quran and Prophet Muhammad teach us in Islam? Very quickly, because our time is not much. Okay, what about spiritual rights? At that time, remember, there's no equal spirituality. Agree? Now, what does Quran says about spirituality? Number 1, in Surah Al-Ahzab, chapter number 33, verse number 35, in the Quran it says, say to the Muslim man and woman, say to the believing man and woman, say to the devout man and woman, say to the true man and woman, say to the men and women who are patient, say to the men and women who are humble, say to the men and women who give charity, say to the men and women who fast, say to the men and women who guard their chastity, say to the men and women who are always embraced in praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For them, Allah have prepared forgiveness and a great reward. What does the Quran say here? Man, woman, man, woman, man, woman, man, woman. You will find similar verses in the Quran several places. So now the Quran is bringing spirituality between men and women to an equal level. Now if you look for an example, the status of women 1,400 years ago according to the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in the Quran, He was telling the Malaika, the angels, that Allah is going to make Khalifa on earth, vicegerent. Who are the Khalifa on earth? Adam and his descendants. Who are the descendants of Adam alayhi salam? Both man and woman. So in other words, women in Islam are treated as Khalifa on earth. Isn't this a high status? Isn't it so? Yes. Now let us look into another verse in the Quran on spirituality. I mean, there's many more. I'll just give you one more. In Surah Hujurat, chapter 49, verse number 13, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, O mankind. Now in English, mankind also include women. Okay? Okay, never mind. Let's say, O humankind. In somebody will say, even in human, there's also man inside human. M-A-N. Okay, never mind. O humankind. We made you from a male and female, referring to Adam and Eve alayhi salam, and made you into tribes and nations, so you may get to know one another, not that you fight with one another. And verily, the most honored in the sight of God is who? The one with taqwa, piety, piousness, righteousness. What Allah sees is not whether you are a male or female. If a male have more taqwa than the female, then the male is more honored in the sight of Allah. If a female has more taqwa compared to the male, then the female is more honored in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you speak about spirituality, male and female are equal. Isn't it so? Now, what I want you to see here is, at that situation, at that condition, people treated women and men differently. Now the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he comes and he says men and women are equal spirituality. Just for an example, if someone comes today and tell you, human being and cows are equal spiritually, what would you say about this person now? The way you treat cows, you must also treat the same way to human and cow, the same way. You must give the same rights to cows, the same rights that you're giving to human beings. What would you say about this person? This person is a madman. Isn't it so?
It's crazy.
He's crazy. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? I would imagine myself, this is my imagination. 1,400 years ago, when the Quran is revealed, and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the people around the world, telling men and women are equal spiritually, how would people actually accept that at that time? Today, of course, it is very easy for us to say men and women are equal, but 1,400 years ago. Let us look into something else. Education right? 1,400 years ago, do you think women had education rights? The answer is no. In the Western country, when was the first time women were allowed admission to study in university? In the United States of America, the first time a woman is accepted into university was in the year 1855. Roughly about 160 years ago. How long? 160 years ago. But from the Islamic tradition, you heard about University Al-Azhar. It's more than 1,000 years. And women are allowed to study in universities for 1,000 years ago. Do you know the very first university in the world? University Al-Caribbean in Morocco. Who established this university? A sister by the name of Fatima Al-Firi. 1,200 years ago. What in the Western world women can have their rights for studies in universities only about 160 years ago? Islam has actually given these rights more than 1,000 years ago. In fact, brothers and sisters, if you look into the Quran, for example, what was the first verse that was revealed in the Quran? Surah Al-Alaq, chapter 96, verse number 1. Iqra bismi rabbika ladzi khalaq. Read, recite, proclaim in the name of your God who has created. Now this Quran is addressed to whom? Only men? Or every human beings? Every human beings. When you say all, what does all mean here? Man and woman. The instruction to read, the instruction to knowledge is to both men and women. In fact, in Islam, it is compulsory for us to educate our children, both sons and daughters. We have the Fard Ain, right? You call Fard Ain? These are the compulsory knowledge you have to give to your children. I mean, every Muslim, it is compulsory knowledge. So this is in Islam, it is compulsory for the parent, for the father to give education to both sons and daughters. True or false, brothers and sisters?
It's true, 100%.
Speaking about education for a while, we know about Aisha. radiyallahu anha. Aisha, no less than 2,210 hadiths have been narrated by her. Isn't it so? And in Islam, what is the main reference of sources? The Quran and also the hadith or the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we derive laws from this. We even take aqidah from this. Not from the authority of Aisha, no less than 2,210 hadiths have been narrated. In fact, many of the companions will look for Aisha and ask for advice, especially in the area of medicine, in the area of family matters. And also when it comes to fara'id, the companions will also come and refer to Aisha. So Aisha, I will say, in a way, is like the professor of the professors. I mean, we can go on and on. Let's discuss about economic rights, shall we? In the Western world, women were not allowed to own property in their name. In England, it was only in the year 1870, for the first time, women were allowed to own property in their own name. But in Islam, a woman can own properties in their own name 1,400 years ago. Isn't it so? In Islam, can women work? Yes, women can work. In fact, we do need women to work. For example, like nurses, teachers, doctors, etc. Some people will say, yeah, Brother Shah, women can work as long as it is halal. Sounds familiar? But I want to ask you, isn't the same condition also for the men? Men can also work as long as it is halal. What is the difference now? True or false? Sorry, sometimes we are chauvinistic. You know, woman can do, but what about you? Now, speaking about economic rights, there is one misconception that people have, which is about inheritance. Normally, non-Muslims among the Christians, they will say is, Islam is not just, because men inherit double compared to women. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? Women get half of what men get. You want the answer? This is actually not true. It is not true. The distribution of the fara'id, the inheritance, is based on male and female. Not at all. If you want to see who gets more, who gets less, the conditions are three. Condition number one, it is the blood tie. The one who has got the blood tie to the deceased will inherit more compared to the one who has no blood tie. That is why the children will inherit more compared to the husband or the wife of the deceased. Isn't it so? Yeah. Condition number two is the generation. The younger generation will inherit more compared to the older generation. That is why the children will inherit more compared to the parent of the deceased. Because the younger generation, they have a longer lifespan, and also usually the children, they are not able to, what do you call this, to be self-sustained economically, so their requirement is more. The older generation, the lifespan is less, so they inherit less. And the third condition is based on responsibilities. Those who have got more responsibility will inherit more compared to the one who have less or no responsibilities. That is why a son will inherit twice, double, compared to a daughter. Because in Islam, it is the duty of the man to take care of the house. Isn't it so? To take care of the expenditure and so on, the responsibility is upon men. Now, for an example, a man, when he earns his salary, this salary belongs to him and also the wife and also the children, including daughters, mothers, etc. But when a woman works, whatever salary she gets, it belongs to her alone. So when a son inherits, whatever amount the son gets, even it's double, but it is actually gross, because he has got responsibility. But a daughter, she may inherit half as compared to the brother, but whatever she inherits is actually net. Let me give you an example. Suppose I die today, and I have, for example, only 2 children. 1 boy, 1 girl. And the amount of money that is to be distributed for my children is 15,000 Australian dollars. 15. How much does my son get now? $10,000 gross. True?
Yeah.
With this $10,000, he have to maintain the family. He have to pay the house rent, for example. He have to pay the car installment. You have to pay for the utility bills, the electricity bill, the telephone bill. You have to pay for the groceries, basic needs, including to take care of the sister. Isn't it so?
Sure.
But whatever my daughter get, how much will my daughter get now? $5,000 net. Whatever my daughter gets, the one lump sum, $5,000, she can keep it in the bank. It belongs to her. Now I want to ask this question to the sisters. I cannot see you. I want to ask the sisters actually. Would you prefer to get $10,000 gross or $5,000 net? Like my son, for example, he gets $10,000 gross. Okay, after 1 month he pay all the bills. How much is left? Maybe $7,000. The following month he has to pay some more. How much is left? $4,000. Then you have to pay some more. You have to continue to pay. So do you prefer to get an inheritance which is double but gross? Every month you have to take care of the family, or would you prefer to take just half but 100% belongs to you alone? Make sense? Now, speaking about inheritance, people say Islam is not fair. Why men get double, women get half? It's not true. Who says men get double, women get half? There are also situations men and women will get equal number. In Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse number 11, for example, if a person who dies leaving behind only the parents, no other here, each of them will get 1/6 of the inheritance. The mother gets 1/6, the father also gets 1/6. So men and women get equal. And for your information, brothers and sisters, Islam is the only religion on the face of earth that guarantees 100% in whatever situation or condition, 100% it guarantees women inheritance. And this guarantee is given in the Quran many places. In Surah Baqarah chapter number 2 verse number 62, Surah Nisa chapter number 4 verse 7 to 9, 11, 12, 19, 33, 176, Surah Ma'idah chapter number 5 verse number 105 to 108. Islam in Quran, it guarantees women inheritance. But in other system, not necessarily a woman is guaranteed inheritance. In our modern world today, the modern system, you can even just give the whole property just to your son and not give to your women, to your daughter. Agree? And sometimes they may even give the whole inheritance to the dog. True or false?
True.
Okay, so this is the economic rights. We discuss about education, we discuss about spiritual rights, we discuss about economic rights. Okay, let's move on. Politics? Okay, politics. In the Western world, brothers and sisters, when were women guaranteed the political rights to vote? In United States, about 1920. Okay, 1920. Meaning less than 100 years.
That's right.
Wait for another 2 years, then you can celebrate the 100 years anniversary. True?
True.
But these political rights were given in Islam to the women 1,400 years ago. For an example, in Surah Mumtahina, chapter number 60, verse number 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, "O Prophet Muhammad, when the believing women come to you giving bay'ah, accept the bay'ah from them." And this bay'ah is actually more than the present day modern voting system. So women were given these political rights 1,400 years ago. And we know about the athar of the Sahaba of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Umar al-Khattab. You heard about Umar al-Khattab? He's a very soft-spoken person, right? Very soft person. Is that so? No. He is a very tough, isn't it so? He's a very tough person and people fear him sometimes. Okay. At one time, he was saying, because the mahar, the dowry is so high, men are actually discouraged from getting married. So he was thinking of putting a condition, okay, an upper limit to the dowry. And one woman stood up and said, "Who is Omar to put a limit when Allah has not put any limit to it?" And she's referring to Surah An-Nisa chapter number 4, verse number 19. When you give mahar, dowry, any amount. Okay? There's no limit, no upper limit or lower limit. So who is Omar to put a limit? And what did Omar say? Omar is wrong,
Yeah.
and the lady is
Right.
right. Today, don't speak about women. How many men can stand up in front of the leader of the country and say, "You are wrong"? You understand what I mean? So in Islam, the political rights of women were actually respected since 1,400 years ago. Okay, now very quickly, social rights. In the past, community, society, would they prefer sons or daughters? Sons. They prefer sons. Suppose in a family, they have 10 daughters. Can you imagine? Now the wife is pregnant, number 11, hoping for a boy. And number 11 also comes out, also a daughter. No, in the past, who will be blamed? The father or the mother? The mother. Right? The mother of the son would blame the daughter-in-law. What kind of daughter-in-law you are? You cannot even give me one son. Probably she will tell the son, "Go and marry another one." Sounds familiar?
Yeah.
True? But brothers and sisters, what does science tell us today? Of course, the sex of the baby is all determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we study science, is to understand the sunnatullah. Now science tells us today, the ovum of the mother, the 23rd chromosome is always X. But the sperm of the father, the 23rd chromosome can be X or Y. If it is the sperm, X sperm, with the X ovum that fertilizes the egg, then it will be XX, a female child. But if it was the Y sperm, Y chromosome sperm, fertilizing the egg which is X, it will become XY, meaning you will get a son. So here, the determining factor, everything with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the determining factor here, is it the ovum or the sperm? The sperm. So why blame women for it? I'm not saying blame the men. This is all risk from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, this is actually mentioned in the Quran. In Surah Najm, chapter 53, verse number 45 and 46, the determination of the sex of the baby is the sperm that is ejaculated. Who ejaculates sperm? The man. So the sex of the baby, don't blame women for it. Now speaking about daughters, at the time of Jahiliyyah, Okay, sometimes if they have a daughter, they'll bring this daughter into the middle of the desert. They will dig and bury the daughter alive, right? This practice, not only in Arab Jahiliyyah, you find many different parts of the world. Many different parts of the world. I do not want to go into details. You agree with me? You agree? Now in Quran, 1,400 years ago, He had put a stop to this action. In Surah Takwir, chapter 81, verse number 8 and 9, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns this action. For these female children that are buried alive, they will be asking, for what wrong were they killed actually? In fact, brothers and sisters, in Surah Nahl, chapter number 16, verse number 58 and 59, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemns that the people, they always want a son. When the news is brought to them that they are going to get a daughter, this news is brought to them, their face become black, ashamed. They are so ashamed, okay, that they have got a daughter. And now they are contemplating, should I keep this daughter or should I actually bury her under the dust? Such an evil thought. In Islam, whether you get a son or a daughter, we cherish both. You agree with me? You get a son, Alhamdulillah. You get a daughter, Alhamdulillah. It does not matter. Brothers and sisters, let me narrate to you my personal story. I converted about 22 over years ago. When my first child was born, it was a daughter. Then there were people asking me, Brother Shah, boy or girl? I said, Alhamdulillah, got a baby girl. You know what was the sound? Yeah. Oh, baby girl. If it is non-Muslims saying this, I can understand. But sometimes Muslims themselves also, oh, girl.
Next time.
Never mind, next time, Brother Shah. My second child, okay, born. The people ask me, Brother Shah, your wife delivered? Yes. Boy or girl? Alhamdulillah, got a girl. Huh? Girl again?
Need a new wife?
Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? Brothers and sisters, what is the point? You want a son, when you get a son, and then you play with them, you're so happy, I got a son, you play with your son, but when he grows up, he become a devil. So it is not whether a son or a daughter, it doesn't matter. What we want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when my wife is pregnant, what I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is my prayer, I pray, Ya Allah, please give me a child that has taqwa to you, iman to you. Please give a child that is obedient to the parent. Please give a child that is useful to the community. Full stop. I don't ask for anything more than that. Only these three. Boy or girl, doesn't matter. Healthy or not really healthy, Alhamdulillah. This is the test from Allah. But what I hope to get is taqwa to Allah, obedient to the parent, and useful to the community. That's my dua. Alhamdulillah, Ameen. Inshallah. Are we good? Okay. Now there's also another hadith. Okay, another hadith. There is a man who approached Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and here the Prophet is saying, anyone who raised two daughters properly, in the hereafter, he will come close to me and bringing two fingers together. The Prophet said two daughters. So actually we can also get shafa by upbringing our daughters well. True or false?
True.
Agree?
True.
Okay, let's move on. The rights of the mother, for example. Islam has put the rights of the mother into a very high position. In Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 1. Surah An'am, chapter number 6, verse number 151. Surah Al-Isra, chapter number 17, verse number 23. Surah Al-Ahqaf, chapter number 46, verse number 15. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, respect your parent, your father and your mother. In Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse number 1, respect the womb that has delivered you. That means respect your mother. In Sahih Bukhari, volume number 8, chapter number 2, hadith number 2, a man approached Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked Prophet, "Oh Prophet, who deserves my love, my attention, my kindness most?" And the Prophet says, "Your mother." "Who next, Prophet?" And the Prophet says, "Your mother." "Yeah, but who next, Prophet?" "Your mother." "Who next, Prophet?" "Your father." The Prophet says the mother 3 times, and only on the 4th time the Prophet says your father. It's supposing this is an Olympic race, the mother will get the gold medal, silver medal, and also the bronze medal, and the father only takes the consolation prize. In An-Nasa'i and Ibn Majah, for example, the Prophet says, the paradise is under the feet of your mother. This does not mean when our mother is sleeping, you look under the feet, you will see paradise. No. It is to show the level of mother in Islam. So Islam has put mothers, women, into a very high status. Yes or no?
Yes.
True or false?
True.
Now the rights of the wife. If you look into, for example, in the Sunan of Ahmad bin Hanbal, in hadith number 2469, for example, a woman was forced by the father to marry. And after the marriage, she approached the Prophet and she asked Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Oh Prophet, my father forced me to marry this man. So what is my situation now?" And the Prophet asked her, "What do you want? Do you want to continue with the marriage, or do you want to nullify the marriage?" She says, "I would like to continue the marriage, but I want women to know that a parent cannot force their daughters to marry." Look into another hadith in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 7, book number 63, hadith number 69. A woman was forced to marry a man against her will. Then she complained to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, "Oh Prophet, I'm forced to marry this man against my will." And the Prophet nullified the marriage. We cannot force our daughter to marry against their will. Agree with me, brothers and sisters? True or false?
True.
But as a parent, we want to protect our daughter. If we know this man is going to bring harm to her, especially harm to the religion, then we interfere. But you cannot force your daughter to marry against her will. Because sometimes we see, this person is a very rich man. If my daughter marry his son, I will get a lot of projects. Sounds familiar? Brothers and sisters, projects, wealth, money does not guarantee happiness. True?
True.
True? I tell my wife, because I got several daughters, I tell my wife much earlier, when my children were still young, I tell my wife, if I die early, I do not get to see our daughters grow up, please make it easy for them. If they want to get married to a man, make it easy. Make it easy. Make it easy for them. If they like this man, the man also like our daughter. Okay? Make it easy. No problem. And no need to ask for, not mahar. Mahar is in Islam, okay? We call in Malaysia is hantaran. You know, how do you call it in English? I'm not sure. This is the money you have to pay. Not dowry. Dowry is mahar, not mahar. But these are the expenses that you give for the marriage. Do you do that here? You know, like for example, in Malaysia, for example, we call that hantaran. Okay, in Malaysia, you may give dowry, okay, let's say 100 Australian dollars, for example. That is a dowry. But in order to marry, you have to give, let's say, for example, okay, 8,000 Australian dollars for the expenses of to invite people to eat and so on, to feasting. So I tell my wife, don't have all that. If we can, whatever we can afford, we invite people and we serve them whatever food we can afford. And whatever the men side want to do, they do it. If you can't afford much, for example, you can only afford bread and butter with coffee, then invite people and only serve bread, butter with coffee. But when you invite people, please tell them the menu. At least they know the menu is what. You want to come, you come. You don't want, also never mind. Thank you. What we want is your blessings. Get it? And my daughters, my first two daughters, I tell them, when you grow up, if you want to get married, you find a man, you like the man, you want to get married or whatever, tell Papa. I'll make it easy for you. I'll make it easy. Just tell Papa you want to get married, I'll make it easy. My only condition is two. Whichever man you want to marry, I have no objection at all. As both of you like one another, I have no objection. Only two conditions. Condition number one, this person must have taqwa. Condition number two, he must be practicing Islam with understanding. Only two conditions. Whether the person is rich or poor, no problem. Fat or thin, no problem. Old or young, no problem. As long both of you like one another. But of course, you cannot check taqwa, right? There's no taqwa meter, right? There's no such thing as a taqwa meter and you put under your armpit and there will be the sound tit 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 tit, high taqwa. Or it goes tit tit tit, low taqwa. No. Even our own taqwa also we do not know. I mean, I used to think very hard. At one time, I used to think very hard. Which level is my taqwa? Is it somewhere high, somewhere medium, or somewhere low? I do not know. If my own taqwa I do not know, how possibly can I know other people's taqwa? But the reason I put this condition for my daughter, at least when they're looking for a man, they look into this kind of traits. This person is practicing with understanding, has some level of iman, taqwa, inshallah. Because to me, in my understanding, this is what will make the marriage more successful. Agree? Clear? Now, speaking about marriage, there's also another misconception that people have. And this is really a big issue. What is it?
Big issue.
Very big issue. This is the P issue. You know P? Polygamy. Or rather polygyny. So a lot of non-Muslims, including Muslims also, have issues about polygamy. Yes or no? And if I do not answer this question properly, the sisters may not allow me to leave Australia in one piece. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Brothers and sisters, my answer for polygamy is actually more than 1 hour. More than 1 hour. Easily about 1.5 hours. Just to address polygamy. Because polygamy is not an issue of academic or intellect alone. Polygamy is also an issue of emotion. The answer that I'm going to give you now is a very short, concise answer. If I do not do justice to this question, please forgive me. Are we good? Okay? People ask me this question. I mean, a lot of non-Muslims ask me this question. Sometimes Muslims themselves, why Islam allow polygamy? Why men can marry 4? If really Islam is just, is fair, if men can marry 4, then women can also marry 4. How do you answer this question? Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, just a short answer. Number 1, there is a misunderstanding. There's a misunderstanding. Actually, the Quran never introduced polygamy. No. There is not even a single verse in the Quran that introduced polygamy, and I dare to challenge. But don't look at me like that, please. The brothers looking at me, they want to swallow me alive. Let me prove my point. Can I do that? And I will prove it to you. The Quran never, not even a single verse in the Quran, introduced polygamy. Are you ready? When was the Quran revealed? About 1400 years ago. Right? Before the revelation of the Quran, did men practice polygamy? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, men practice polygamy. So did the Quran introduce polygamy? No. So why blame Islam for something that Islam didn't do? You see, the choice of word is important. I did not say Islam did not introduce polygamy. How long is Islam? Roughly.
1440.
No, not 1400 years. No. Since time immemorial. You see the point?
Yeah.
So I did not say Islam did not introduce polygamy. What did I say? The Quran did not introduce polygamy because man has already practiced polygamy. You look into the Hindu civilization, the Chinese civilization, Greek, Roman, look, people practice polygamy. No limit. When I was in China, I went to this, what do you call this, the palace area of the previous dynasty. Okay, he got hundreds of room for the wives and thousands of room for concubines. So the practice of polygamy is a norm. What Quran introduced in Surah An-Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 3 is, marry the woman of your choice. 2, 3, or 4. But if you fear you're not able to do justice between your wives, then marry only 1. True or false? What did Quran introduce? 2 things. Point number 1, putting a limit, maximum at one time only 4 wives. Before the Quran, no limit, any number of wives. Now the Quran come down telling the man not more than 4 at any given time. Condition number 2, you are able to do justice between your wives. Now to do justice between our wives is not easy. Not easy. It does not mean if you have got 2 wives, wife number 1 you give 1,000 Australian dollars, wife number 2 you also give 1,000 Australian dollars. If you buy chicken for the wife number 1, you also have to go to the market and buy chicken for wife number 2, even she is allergic to it. No. To do justice to the wife is a comprehensive justice. Comprehensive in every way. Now, as a man, as a Muslim man, if you have only 1 wife, having just 1 wife, not 2, 3 or 4, just having 1 wife, to do justice to 1 wife, is it easy or difficult now? It's very difficult. Because wives are actually an amanah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in the hereafter, as a man, we will be questioned. How did we treat our wives? True or false? True or false?
True.
According to me, this is me. I'm not talking from Islam, okay? According to me, a man who practices polygamy, having more than 1 wife, they will either go faster to hell or they go faster to heaven. If they do not do justice between the wives, then they will be moving faster to hell. But if they do justice between the wives, then they go faster to heaven. Makes sense? Makes sense? Now, sometimes people ask why men can marry 4, women cannot marry 4. Where is the justice? Very quickly. Okay. When people ask you why in Islam is this, why in Islam is that, our answer is because this is what Allah and the Prophet says. This is what the Quran and the Sunnah says. Are we good? Okay. If people ask why, because it's Quran and Sunnah. But what we want to discuss now is the wisdom behind that we can think of. Because if we stop at the Quran and Sunnah, people may not be satisfied with your answer. So what we are discussing now are the wisdom that we can think of. Now, men can marry 4, women can only marry 1 at a time. What are the wisdom behind that I can think of? Number 1, if there is only 1 wife, let's say 1 husband and 4 wives. When the baby is born, child is born, you know exactly who is the father and who is the mother. Agree? If there is only 1 wife, 4 husbands, if a child is born, baby is born, you know exactly who is the mother, yes. But you're not sure which one is the father. So when you give the name of the child, for example, Ahmad, for example, bin, A, alias, B, alias, C, alias, D, because not sure. Some people will say, Brother Shah, don't you watch TV series like CSI? Today, you cannot determine who is the father by DNA, which is not easy, but okay, with DNA you can. Now let's look into other wisdom behind. Okay, for an example, 1 man having 4 wives. Does this man agree to polygamy? Yes. Otherwise he would not marry 4, okay? Does the 4 wives agree to polygamy? Let's discuss. The first wife, maybe yes, maybe no. But usually, first wife, no. Okay, before that, I was just about to ask you, can I be frank?
Please do.
Of course, you brothers, please. Sisters, I apologize if I hurt your feelings. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I stand to be corrected. Okay? Now, the first wife usually would not agree. Maybe yes, maybe no. Second wife agrees. Third wife agrees. Fourth wife agrees. So by ratio, the husband and the other 3 wives, they agree. 1, maybe yes, maybe no, but most probably no. Now, if the husband wants to marry number 2, what would normally the first wife say? Usually, over my dead body. You want to marry another one? You want to marry another one? Divorce me first. Sounds familiar? Sounds familiar? Now, supposing the same lady, if she is going to be wife number 2, what will be her dialogue? When are we getting married? Getting married is something good. We are making masjid. Something good, do not prolong it. Get married fast. You must be responsible. We must get married. Sounds familiar? And if this man, for example, marries wife number 2, what will be the dialogue of the first wife? Usually, not necessarily, but usually it will be, husband, I told you not to marry another one, but you still got married to another wife. Why did you do that? But never mind, what to do? This is takdir. But why do you only marry 2? Why not you marry number 3? Do you have anyone else in your mind? I will go and get married for you. Otherwise, I will recommend you someone. Because the wife number 1 wants the co-wife number 2 to also feel what she has gone through. But the second wife, after getting married, usually will tell the husband, you can only afford to marry 2. Never ever talk about getting married number 3. If you want to get married, number 3, over my dead body, divorce me first. I am sorry, I'm sorry. I don't intend to make fun of this. But then, would you agree this is the normal conversation, the normal dialogue? Is that so? I don't know about your culture here. I really do not know. But this is something very, very familiar from where I come from. Is it something like this over here?
Same.
Same? Okay. Okay, please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. Please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. Okay? Now, men. Now I want to talk about men, because I don't want to be gender biased. Clear? Now to speak about men. When they want to get married, polygamy, men usually they say, this is my right as Islam. This is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's wrong if I get married more than one? Sounds familiar? But when they get married more than one, they do not follow the justice that is prescribed by the Quran and the Sunnah. So sometimes women cannot accept their husband marry more than one. It's also because the men do not carry out their duties, their responsibilities as a husband. True or false? Am I being gender biased here? I hope no. Am I encouraging polygamy? No. Am I saying don't do polygamy? No. If someone asks me, Brother Shah, should I practice polygamy or not? I will say, you ask your iman and your taqwa, can you do it or not? You ask your iman and taqwa. But then again, depending where you are coming from. If you're coming from a place where polygamy is a norm in the society have no issues about polygamy, then no problem, you can afford, you do it. But if you're coming from a culture, a society where polygamy is a taboo, the society usually cannot accept polygamy, then my suggestion, just a suggestion for the brothers, avoid polygamy. Don't trouble unless trouble troubles you. Don't play with fire. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the first wife is okay, you get married to a second wife. But unfortunately, the society, the community around would put pressure into the first wife. How can you allow your husband marry another one, etc., etc. And that sometimes can also create problem in the family members. See, brothers and sisters, I'm not encouraging polygamy or anything, or discouraging, I'm not saying that. But what I want to say is, sometimes polygamy is also the solution to solve a problem. But time does not allow me, because my answer for this question of polygamy will be more than 1 hour. I know people will say, yeah, Brother Shah, but why 4? Why not 1? Why not this? Why not that? We can go into the details one by one. But if but the summary for polygamy, what I want to say, brothers and sisters, if we apply Islamic principles, both the husband and the wives, everyone apply Islamic principles, no issue with polygamy. The issue with polygamy is any one of them or all of them, the husband or the wife, that does not practice what Islam teaches. That is the main problem with polygamy. Sometimes men, they want polygamy, but they are not responsible. That's also the issue here. Are we good? I hope the sisters will allow me leave Australia in one piece. Okay. That's all. Because the time given to me is about this time. And among the signs of a person, a believer, is to keep to your time. And I also do not want to be cruel to you, because probably some of you are saying, Brother Shah, don't you know today's Monday night? Tomorrow is Tuesday, working day, Brother Shah. It's already almost 10 o'clock, Brother Shah. When are you going to stop? So I stop here now. Okay?
Carry on. Please carry on.
He's retarded.
Carry on.
Well, I think I'll just stop here. But what I want to say, brothers and sisters, again, brothers and sisters, these rights were given in Islam 1,400 years ago. If you are speaking about United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, that was only in the year 1948, the 10th of December 1948. Whatever rights given in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, especially for the women, all these rights and more than that have been given in the Quran and the Sunnah through Islam. So Islam does not oppress women, but on the contrary, Islam uplifts women. Just one more thing I want to say here. Just a few more minutes, please bear with me. Because I also get this question from revered sisters. Okay? I get this question from revered sisters, and this sister reverted about 1 year plus. And the question is about hijab. Number one, hijab does not oppress women, but I don't have much time to go into it. If I'm meeting a Christian, I will say, you know Mother Mary? They say yes. You know Mother Teresa? Yes. Would you agree if I say Mother Mary is among the best of women in the Christian world? They say yes. Would you agree in the contemporary world, Mother Teresa is one of the best examples for the Christian woman? They say yes. What is similar between Mother Mary, Mother Teresa, and a sister in Islam? Hijab. So the question should not be why Muslim women have hijab. The question should be why Christian women do not practice the example of the best of the Christian women. Get what I mean?
Yeah.
Clear? But what I want to say here is especially for new Muslims who just reverted to Islam. Sometimes we, especially the born Muslim, when someone comes to Islam, we are very quick. Now you become a Muslim already, congratulations. You must do this, you must do that, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, this is haram, that is haram, this is for, that is for. Sounds familiar? Come on, man, give it a break. This person just become a Muslim. For someone to convert to Islam, to revert to Islam, do you think it is easy? Do you think it is easy? No. What they practice from young for generation, now they're changing that religion. Don't you think they have objection from the parents? Don't you think they have objection from their family members, from their siblings? Some of these people, when they come to Islam, they hide their Islam. They hide. They do not declare they are Muslim. Their family members do not know that this person has already become Muslim. Can you understand? For a man, it's a bit easy. But for a woman, when she's outside, she applies hijab. But when she goes back to the family, to the mother's house, to the sister's house, for example, they do not know she's a Muslim. If they know she's a Muslim, there will be a bigger harm. They may even force her to leave Islam, or a lot of problem. You see the point? So in this situation, what she should do?
Step by step.
Step by step. What is the most important thing is, don't do shirk. Agree with me? Surah Nisa chapter number 4, verse number 48, verse number 116, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the sin of shirk, Allah will never forgive. Any other sins less than that, if Allah wish to forgive, Allah will forgive. Shirk, Allah will never forgive, unless we repent and we ask for forgiveness. What we want for these new reward brothers or sisters, to keep them in Islam, to keep them away from shirk. Everything else, do the best that you can. In Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22, verse number 78, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Meaning, and we have imposed no burden to you in the matter of religion. Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 286, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Allah will not test a person beyond his or her capabilities. Whatever test that come to us is within our capabilities. What did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in Sahih Bukhari, volume number 1, chapter 11, hadith number 69? The Prophet says, Yasiru wa la tu'asiru, bashiru wa la tu'nafiru. What does it mean? Make things easy. Don't make things difficult. Make people happy. Don't frighten people away from Islam. Keep them in Islam. If there is too evil, if they are too evil, what do you do? Take the lesser evil. Sometimes we say, oh, woman, you have to cover your head. You have to cover, you have to cover. But then you gossip, you backbite. Surah Hujurat chapter 49 verse number 12. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, oh, you who believe, avoid suspicions. Some of these suspicions may lead to sin. And do not find the faults of other people. And do not backbite. Do you want to eat the flesh of the dead body of your relatives? But in Surah An-Nur chapter 24 verse number 30 and 31, and also Surah Al-Azab chapter 33 verse number 59, is about the hijab. But the Quran does not say any punishment if a person does not practice hijab. Agree? In the Quran it's not mentioned punishment. Agree? But if you backbite, it is mentioned. Do you want to eat the flesh of the dead body of your relatives? Now, brothers and sisters, how many of you never, not even once, this whole year, you have never backbitten anyone, never gossip about anyone? Okay. The whole of the month of July. Okay. Just for 1 week, not even once, not even in your thought, you backbite or gossip anyone. Okay, just for today. Sounds familiar? Am I trying to make haram into halal? No. Covering hijab is fard. I'm not saying. But then what I want to say is, please look into the situation. If there are new Muslims that come to Islam, go step by step. Very important for this sister is to maintain relationship with the family members. Maintain the relationship with the parent, with her sibling, the brothers, the sisters. Have good relationship. Hopefully, when you keep your relationship with your family members, we hope that one day you remove the misconception your family have against Islam. You remove the misunderstanding. You correct the presumption they have against Islam, the prejudice against Islam. And we make dua that their family members also will come to Islam. Brothers and sisters, especially you who are born into Muslim family, your whole family are Muslims, yes or no? Yes or no? Supposing, I'm not making a dua, but just supposing, if your parent or your children are non-Muslims today, they're not Muslims today, can you sleep? Can you sleep? Wouldn't you actually put effort to bring them into Islam? Same thing with the people who just come to Islam, brothers and sisters. Be kind to them. Don't be hard on them. I hope I clarify more than creating confusion. Brothers and sisters, I do not know your culture or your urf here, but if I go against your culture, your urf, or I do mistakes, I seek the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I hope you too can forgive me. Everything that is good, it comes from Allah, and me being a human being, I have a lot of weaknesses, as also mentioned in the Quran in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 79. The subject today the topic was women's rights in Islam. I hope I've done justice. This topic, women's rights in Islam, is actually meant more for the brothers. Sometimes we men, including me, sometimes we men, we do not give enough justice to the women, to our wife, to our mother, to our daughters. We have a lot of responsibilities. May Allah give us the strength and guidance to all of us, inshallah, to keep us on the straight path and to be able to follow Islam in the proper teachings in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah, inshallah. And I also like to thank Ummah. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. Until we meet again next time, inshallah. Wa khairu da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Every Muslim dreams to be up in Jannah, 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 Jannah. A pious person's destiny. Inshallah in Jannah, Jannah, Jannah.